Season 4 of the Lehigh Valley Arts Podcast, where we explore the local arts culture and community in the Lehigh Valley.
We'll be doing this through conversations with individual artists, administrators, musicians, poets, actors, and arts and cultural organizations. We'll discuss all types of mediums with the goal of enriching local arts culture. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Lehigh Valley Arts Podcast. My name is Ben, and this week I will be sitting down with the band We're From Antarctica. Easton, Pennsylvania's very own indie quintet, We're From Antarctica, emerged onto the scene in late 2018 through a series of serendipitous events that would lead Carlos Paco Brown, Jesse Ray, John Blanco, Mackenzie Cressley, and Christopher Rausch to meet. The group's debut album, The People We Know, which released in 2019, took off to much acclaim. Some of the reviews they garnered were, the kind of music you play in the background as you make dinner for the friend you've been secretly in love with for 2 years, and the likes of wistful makeout music. While extensively touring through the years, the band has had the opportunity to open for national touring acts such as Frankie Cosmos, The Unlikely Candidates, and Ryan Cabrera. Their sophomore album, We'll Figure It Out, is coming out on September 27th. Recorded between December 2022 and January 2024 at Headroom Studios, the album is a culmination of the sonic stylings of each member entering a new era that defines this group's sound. The album is being produced by Kyle Pooley. Kyle has engineered such artists as Alex G and Dr. Dog. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
So there's a lot of us in the studio right now.
Yeah.
6 to be exact. I'm gonna start with John, and I'm gonna have each one of you introduce yourself. That way the audience can understand the voices that are in the room.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm John Blanco. I play lead guitar.
Wow, that's so riveting. My name is Mac Cressley. I play bass, the best guitar.
Boring.
Hi, I'm Chris Rausch, and I play drums.
Ooh.
I'm Jess. I play keyboard and I sing.
I'm Paco. I play guitar and sing.
Yeah! Go Paco!
Wow.
Notice a little bias here.
How did you guys come together as a band?
Well, it initially started as a project between Paco, me, and then some other friends. It was actually started by someone else. And then shortly thereafter, it ended up being just Paco and I for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Picked up a couple members here and there. We went through a little bit of changes, tried to record some stuff, and then fell through a little bit. That was kind of high school at that point. Right after I graduated, so somewhere in 2016, we ended up getting Mac. We gave him the option, do you want to be guitar or bass? And he was like, you know what? Give me the worst guitar.
Hey, whoa!
And then we met John actually kind of through happenstance where we, I went to Pittsburgh with my wife and a friend, and we stayed at a friend's house. And that friend was like, oh, I know someone back home in Bethlehem that's looking for projects. They play guitar and drums and stuff. So we just reached out to him. When we got back to the Valley, he came for tryouts, and we were immediately like, that's our man.
That's when Paco fell in love with me.
Yeah, that's true.
It's been over since then.
Yeah.
Now, where did you guys grow up?
Most of us are in the Valley. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think all of us grew up in the Valley.
I was a little bit farther out. I was like this really, really quiet little town called Portland,
Okay.
like right next to New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was like my childhood, but I was basically in like Bangor, Wind Gap area
Sure.
Yeah.
for a long time.
But me, Paco, and Chris, we grew up in Easton. Like, the three of us went to high school together.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we actually met in middle school.
Yeah.
I am the odd one out in this one. I was born in the Philippines, so I'm not a true-blooded American, unfortunately.
I was going to cheer.
I got implanted. I've been assimilated and implanted in America for about, I want to say, 15 years, so I'm pretty American. I believe.
What the hell's a kilometer? Let's go.
I didn't even know what a kilometer was when I was back then.
Who needs them?
Yeah, we don't need him here. And John is from Bethlehem.
Yep, born and raised.
Nice.
Boo.
So you three were in Easton?
Yep.
Did you go
Yep.
to Wilson or Easton School District?
Easton.
Easton?
Yeah.
Nice. And
Yeah.
I know you guys semi-recently started working with a manager. So who are you guys working with?
Ryan Susko.
Our lovely, lovely boy.
Oh,
Our boy. What's it been like working with him as manager?
Oh my God,
It's
amazing.
been completely different. Like, I feel like it's a struggle as a band to try to do the creative side and then all the other things. And it's hard to know how to separate up tasks between everyone. But Ryan came in just like ready to go. We actually met him as like a friend, and then he said that it was something that he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Started off just booking for us.
Yeah,
mostly.
and he wouldn't say that he was our manager, but we would always be like, yeah, that's our manager. And but then eventually he said it, and we all looked at each other. We were like,
wow,
oh,
it's
guys.
serious.
We got him.
Blush and everything.
He's been super instrumental in a lot of what we've been doing for the past like year and a half now. Honestly, he's been really good at keeping us kind of like leveled. Sometimes we get really in our heads about like what we're doing and how we're doing and all this like crazy stuff, but he's like the guy on the outside that's like, you guys are killing it.
I
Just
swear,
keep going.
dude has no anxiety.
Yeah.
I don't know what, he's built different. He's just got the head for it, and he's just,
Yeah, and we're all just a bundle of nerves.
Yeah,
Like,
we
that's
really
all.
are. We really are.
How long into being a band did it take for you guys to realize that a manager was the next step?
I think it wasn't until Ryan came up to us. Like, it was just a matter of growth. Like, we just didn't know what we needed and when we needed it until that moment. Ryan was super stoked with what we were doing. And I think before we were just looking for people. And I think that just wasn't the move.
For quite some time, we were like, we feel like we have music that we could go places with, but then like, how do you do that?
Sure.
What does it look like?
What does it look like? You know, and then there's this whole thing where like creatives often don't have like a business mindset. And like you need anyone that has at least a little inkling of that, because there's so much money management and like booking is like a whole thing by itself. Once you can offload some of that and get some help, then it really helps everything come to fruition a lot better.
Yeah. And not only is it's cool because he's like a friend, but also he's so passionate about what he does. He gets excited. He gets us excited, I think. And I think we need that when we're, I think there was a long point in time when we were like so driven and narrow focused because we're just in the grind, but he's outside of it in a way where he can be like, no, you guys are actually doing pretty good. So it's nice.
Yeah.
Because it's super easy to lose yourself when you're just like, okay, let's play this show, what's next?
Yeah.
And when you kind of get in the mindset of just like, okay, I'm finished with this, let's go to the next project. You never really get to sit down and kind of like enjoy or really focus on the things you've done in the past. I mean, like anyone that's like done anything in the arts can like really say that. Just like you're always looking forward. You're never really just like taking it all in. And Ryan helps with that so much. Where he'll like, we'll be at shows where we're all anxious. It's like, oh, this is super big, and he's just like, no, this is the coolest thing ever.
It's so refreshing. It's so refreshing.
It's fantastic because again, like we're all just anxious people just playing music, and we're like, oh god, we have to do this, and just like, what if we mess up that? And he's just kind of there, just like, no, this is super cool. And we're like, hell yeah, you're right, Ryan. This is super cool.
You know what,
Thank you.
You're right.
I was gonna say, like, the volume amount of shows that we had like last year, a lot of it was Ryan's doing, and I think it helped us in a way monetarily, but it also helped us a way, like, that we got so tight with our music that it became kind of like second nature for us to kind of keep performing at that level. And he always kept us, like, as everyone was saying, like level-headed, and but not only that, I think he really instilled this level of motivation, and it just amazes me every time when he talks about it. He's like, the belief, the faith. It's like, I don't know if like we're doing that well.
It's like what you see in the movies when you're like, wow, what a classic. You know what I mean? And that's the way I see like Ryan with us. Like, it's just like,
He's
wow.
just in the back with a big cigar. He's like, here to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You got it in you. You got
Thanks.
Just
Like,
shut
okay,
up
if you say
before.
so, Ryan.
I will shout out one person who was on tour with us that really, I think, for me at least, really helped me like stay level and have fun, was our buddy Frank, who he is notorious for his multiple costumes. If you see him in the crowd at the next show, he usually has a pinwheel hat. He's a good boy.
Dude, I on tour, I jokingly yelled at him, dance. He was like in the middle of the, like the floor, and then he just started breakdancing. I didn't know he could do that. So thank you for the gift of Frank.
And was that on the From Mars to Antarctica tour?
Oh yeah,
That's what that was. Yeah, that was
Morris
really
Council.
fun.
Oh,
The best.
Really good
the
band.
absolute
Amazing.
best.
Really good
Oh,
band.
I miss them to this day.
Real fun to watch them on tour too, and just see them play. They're real cool.
I would love to go back on tour with them like immediately.
Yeah.
No, they were just great people to be with, and just had like. Sometimes when you're playing music with people, some people like have like that absolute urge. Some people just want to play to have fun, and both are really cool. But like Morris Council had this fire dude.
Yeah.
That it just lines up with us. And like with that, it's just like fun personalities to just chill and just like talk and hang out. Like the guitarist James, there were so many times that we were both at the merch booth and just shooting the shit for hours and just being stupid. And I'm just like, I love that. It's so great. And then just go see them enjoy themselves and have fun and have that passion is, oh my God,
Dude,
I loved it.
That Philomoka show was like
Oh my gosh.
amazing. It was kind of emotional a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was just an awesome time spending with them, and then just seeing just like it all coming together at the end there.
Yeah, because that was our final show. It's like we ended up going all the way to Pittsburgh, coming back, hitting New York City, and our last show was Philomoka. And like that's kind of like they're from Philly. We're obviously from the Valley. So it's like this is like our homebound tour, the homebound show. And so many people came out. They played, they were fantastic. We played our hearts out. Everyone that was inside of the crowd, it just felt so surreal. And it was just like it made everything on that tour feel like it was so worth it from that. It was like a movie moment where like everything just lined up so well and felt so great. And again, just seeing them live and like playing on a big stage like that, it was amazing. It was fantastic, dude. I miss them right now. So James, I love you. Please call me back.
Let's talk a little bit more about touring, right? Was that your first time touring as a group together?
Well, it's our first successful tour.
The first one was definitely it had its rough moments. We also we did Chicago. All our shows got canceled. We ended up camping in Ohio on the hottest day of summer. We were with our good buddy Felix. So also shout out to Felix and thank you for keeping the energy on our first tour. Yeah, the first one definitely was a learning experience for us.
It was a time. Again, like all of the shows that we had in Chicago and Ohio canceled. We still
that's
went.
right. Yeah, in Ohio.
Yeah, so it was canceled. We were camping. It was so hot. Most of us didn't like it. Like some of us did.
We were chopping wood and cooking on a fire in 90-degree weather. I was like, what are we doing out here?
I loved everything.
I like camping, but not like that. Like not in 90-degree weather.
And then we actually had some shows at the end of it where it was like 2 shows in DC. We ended up driving back home for a few days and then had a few shows in Boston. I ended up getting COVID from DC. So we got home. I got sick. Like, I think we got home on like a Sunday. I was like, on the next Monday, I woke up. I was like, I'm not feeling too great, and immediately couldn't taste anything. So I couldn't go on the last show that was in Boston. So our friend Felix had to learn all of our parts within like a few days, and then drive up and play in Boston. So it was a learning experience. Exactly what Jess said. So,
It was also the first show we got mooned at.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. I had family there, and this guy like walked up in front of us and like and I didn't know what to expect at first, but he just like let it go, and I was like, okay, sir, okay.
I think like in the middle of our set, our gear just shut off because it was like plugged into a lamppost. Like we were pulling.
Yeah, we blew the lamppost or whatever. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And then we were plugged into like a car battery or something, like a generator behind us or
It
something.
was not ideal. It was cool though.
It was at a skate park, that one.
Yeah,
That was cool.
It was cool.
It was like Lynn's family skate park or something.
Yeah.
They were really
How
cool.
do you remember that, Chris?
Because I keep a log of all of our gigs in my Google Maps. But also shout out to that guy that mooned us.
Yeah, never forget.
Was that first tour tied to the album release?
That was 2022. I think we had just maybe released our like "Simp Don't Marry Me" or something. No, that was afterwards.
Fade Away.
It was Fade Away right before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just wanted to see if we could do it.
Yeah.
And
And we kind of did.
I mean, we got out there.
Yeah. So what did you guys learn from that first tour that wasn't quite as successful in comparison to the second tour that was by all means much more successful?
Preparation is super key. You know, we tried and we thought we had a good idea of like where we were booking and everything like that, but everything fell at the last moment. We were kind of just like, okay, yeah, we'll just figure it out. It's fine. And then this show dropped and that show dropped and this band dropped. So it's just like this time we definitely were like, hey, we need to be with someone that's going to be super serious, that are like, honestly, a large amount of like the booking end came from like a Mars Council.
From Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Ian.
Because I think they reached out to us and asked if we wanted to join them. And like, we were really willing to help out, but he just he runs his own venue in Philly called Fear and Loathing. And so he just, over the years of running that, he's just made the connects. He knows the people. And he was working with somebody else. I can't remember the name, but like they did it well. They really pulled it off.
Also, maybe when you're local, not just doing it alone.
Yeah,
It's like
that
just
too.
in general,
Yeah.
like having someone else to like another group to share gear, more people. So it's not just like you and like the 6 of us or whatever,
Yeah. And another thing was just like trying to book shows that were close to us, that were like in a tri-state area. Because the first time, like we even like shrunk it down. Like we were talking to a few other bands about going farther than Chicago, and we're like, whoa, that's even a lot. And with some of those gigs, we might have not gotten anybody because it was mainly just like, okay, so here's this random PA band going to Chicago for the first time. It would be tough to have some kind of draw.
Yeah.
Where, with this tour, it was very much so like, all right, we're going all the way out to Pittsburgh. But yeah, just trying to hit the shows that are kind of like really help the following. Cause like definitely the more people that are coming out to the shows, the more it's like worth it to first play it just because it's fun. The more people, the more interaction, the better the show is.
Yeah.
And then the second is just like obviously getting to play in front of as many people as possible. So like trying to stay like centralized and just like Pennsylvania and New York, down in Philly. We were even trying to like maybe book in New York, New Jersey. That didn't end up happening. But all the shows that we went to were super fun. There was a good crowd. There were good venues. Like all the bands were fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's just like the preparation and knowing where to hit was definitely like the main thing that like we took away from the first tour. Where it's just like we can't just like go and take a vacation, practically.
Yeah. What was the difference in audience like for you guys going outside of the Lehigh Valley?
I think it was pretty surprising, honestly. I kind of wasn't expecting us to really have much of a crowd at any of these shows, really. And all of them were like well attended. I think it helped too that local well-known bands were on the bill too. And I think that's like another, going back to what we learned, I think that's the more important, like one of the more important parts is that getting local bands to open up and close. Like that Philomoco show, I was so nervous at first because I was like, I don't know if anybody's going to show up. But people came out and so it's very surprising, but really it was awesome.
Yeah, and even the Mr. Roboto show in Pittsburgh, which was in like the middle of the week. I forget what day it was.
It was like a Wednesday. Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, it's like the middle of the week. We still had
it was good.
Great attendance of just people from Pittsburgh coming out to support, and that always feels great.
That's awesome.
I was going to say, I think one of the things we learned, this is outside of this tour, was when we were gigging a lot, we would hit areas and we would like put out feelers, basically. Like Ryan would say, okay, we want to try and build a community there. Great example is State College, where it is
one of the best places to play.
Honestly, it's been consistently like we played there once and the attendance was packed to the brim and they loved us, and a lot of them were listening to our stuff before they were looking us up because they're in need of a lot of those kinds of our kind of music. And so when we showed up and we played, they really responded really well. There was a lot of good interaction and good fan interaction, both on stage and off. And I think when we keep coming back, bookers just want to keep us coming and they want us to keep going. And I think that's the key, is like hitting that first impression, even if it's like 1 or 2 people, because I see people who have been to every single show, like every single time.
Wow.
And they tell their friends, and word of mouth is really like strong there. And I think, we find that also college crowds definitely vibe with us the most, I would say.
Yeah, in this world of like everything being very digital, it is very hard to just cultivate a following online. You really do have to be a part of their community as well. And it's so great to be able to just enter these different bubbles, and just like you said, put out feelers, become part of their crowd as well.
Yeah. What is the live experience like for you guys? Like as musicians and as a band together, what do you guys take away from the live experience? What do you like about it? Tell me more about the live experience.
Like I've been playing shows since I was like 13 years old in like an old post-hardcore band in high school. And it's just the raw energy of being able to be with people that you care about and show other people something that you've worked so hard on, and to have that certain experience. And it's amazing to like get on stage and have like hours and hours and days and weeks of preparation of music that like not just yourself but a whole group of people have just like poured their hearts and souls into, and to be able to have like almost like a conversation with another person just by them listening and to enjoy the show is better than anything. Like that experience of being able to look out and look at somebody and see how they're taking in the music, because music is so individual. Like we can all sit here and play the same song and we will all have a different interpretation of how we feel about it. So if we play in front of 100 people, that's 100 different interpretations. That's 100 different nights. It's 100 different memories.
Oh, yeah.
And it's amazing. I love it. Every time we play, no matter if it's in front of 3 people or 300, it's always, especially with these guys, like, not to be sappy or anything like that, but like, I've been in a lot of bands, but like, I love playing in this one because we all feel the same way. And we all love the things that we're doing. And I feel like the people that are coming out to these shows can feel that as well. And it's just shared energy, man. And it's amazing. Every time we have a show, especially when like people are super receptive to it, it's amazing. It's some of the best feelings I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, I definitely have the best live experience when I actually get to talk with the audience before and dance with them and see the other bands. I'm actually like, you know what? I feel like I like a lot of other aspects of being in a band. Like I like the video planning. I like the songwriting. I like sometimes live isn't my favorite, but I feel like I'm connecting to it in a different way. Kind of, it's like there's definitely, I mean, I've been playing for so long, but still it feels like I'm finding my footing with who I want to show up as. And sometimes the energy changes and it's hard sometimes to gauge it when, you know, you just left work, you drove 3 hours to Philly, you unpacked, you whatever it is, like, you know, it's hard sometimes not to let that energy get mixed up before you play. So that's something I've been trying to like feel out. But I think definitely, like you kind of said, like being there with the people is what changes that all. Like once you talk to people, once you realize, oh, like I can relax here, I can joke around here, I can dance with the people here. Like this is a good place to be and I'm happy to be here and I get to be here. It's like reminding yourself of that when you're there. Because you're not always going to be in the mood to do it. Sometimes you're going to be really tired because some people have characters or different personalities or like, you know, it's something that gives me a lot of anxiety sometimes playing live. But I think it's something I'm trying to find my own new way in.
Yeah, it's very interesting because like we really don't have like a character shtick or anything like that live, which I think that like, at least to me, makes me sometimes more nervous because this is just raw us. Like it isn't just like, oh, we're showing up and we're doing this whole theatrical thing where we're a different person. We're showing up and our thing as a band is that like we are ourselves and we want to have an experience with you. Yeah. So like, while that's amazing sometimes, it can be super nerve-wracking because it's very vulnerable. It's incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah, I know, at least for me, like if it does feel like playing live can sometimes almost be more of like a mask off moment than like being yourself at home or whatever. Yeah. Like it is just like more raw you than anything else, you know?
Yeah, like once you really tap in, I guess that's what I'm kind of feeling. Like there's definitely like a sweet spot of like when I feel like holy crap, like that's when everything that I just wanted and everything that I just felt, and that's exactly what I needed. There's definitely a sweet spot, and I'm trying to find like whatever path takes me there the most frequently, because sometimes it's hard to tap into that.
I would say like at least in terms of like sharing yourself on stage is connection, but I think one word I would describe, at least for my experience with this group, has been possession. People have told me when I would play, I looked like I was possessed by a spirit. Right. It's almost like it's a state of flow that you're just not thinking. At least for me, it's a state of flow where really, like, you see the eyes wide. I have like airbender tattoos and everything. Where it's just like it's a fine line between like chaos and like order, and it's like this like weird like. Yeah. I'm just doing things, so you see me stumbling, like playing and like.
Saying this guy, you think he's gonna fall? Like he's like what are the Weeble Wobbles?
That's true.
Mighty Beans.
Yeah, honestly.
Oh my
god. No, and it would just be like and it would feel like I would not be in control of myself, and then I let it kind of take over. And once I'm done, I'm like, hi, I'm back. Hey, how are you?
I think actually a funny thing is that we're so unassuming when we show up at shows, I feel like, and sometimes people don't even know we're like the band, you know, because we're just a bunch of dudes, we're just a bunch of guys. So but then like sometimes when we are in that mode and it really just like takes over and, you know, we let loose and we are the rock stars inside of us, it's like, that's you guys?
I think before I joined the band, I hadn't had like any stage experience. Like I remember our first show when it was just the four of us. I was so incredibly nervous. I was the only one that was like over 21. So I was at the bar drinking, trying to calm my nerves. And like, I remember for a long time, I was like, I would be really conflicted because I'm like, I should be moving around. I should be like Mac, like he's moving. The music's not even starting. He's moving already.
That's something I was told a lot when I first started. Is people were like, "You need to move," and that made me so uncomfortable.
Same. Like it really,
like, no, that's not
really
what I want to do.
It made me feel. I was so self-conscious about it, and sometimes I still am. But now I'm just kind of like, that's just not what I do. Yeah. And like that kind of like self-acceptance on stage is something. I mean, it feels great because it's like I know what I do on there, and I don't need anybody to really tell me how to do it. And when, like what Jess was saying, when we hit our stride, that's when I start moving. You know, when when the crowd's really energetic, when the crowd is loving it, like I can't help but like take that energy and really make it my own as well. So I mean, it's been like super, like the live experience. I do love it a lot. Like I just like that connection when we hit it. Like it's awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah. The only soul crushing part of performing live is when you got to do it and it's just like 2/3 covers or something, you know? And you can't be like fully like your own band, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, and
I do love
you gotta be quiet, and we're like, we're a 5-piece band.
I want to hear a little bit more about that with the covers. Is that something that's venue specific that the venue requests?
Yeah, so sometimes we'll play shows where it's just like, okay, well, they want like 3 hours worth of material, or we'll play a bar or some kind of tavern that's very much so. It's not so much that they're asking for covers, but it's just like we just don't have 3 hours worth of material.
Sure.
So it's very much so like, okay, well, we need to fill 3 hours worth of time with music, and we have like, you know, maybe an hour and a half of stuff that we have recorded, written, that we want to show off. So it's like, okay, now we got to dig into what do we want to play, learn that. Yeah. And we've gone over the years of just like changing covers just because like we've been in sometimes just like playing so many shows where we can't change covers. So it's just like we've been playing the same songs for like a few years and they get tired. Like playing someone else's music that long, like speaking for all of us, is a drag sometimes.
I will say though, we did pick with a lot of these covers was kind of like close to what we do already. So there's a lot of like influence that we have over like what we pick. So we'll pick like songs that people wouldn't normally pick for like, you know, a bar gig. Like we'll throw in like Steve Lacy and everyone's like, they threw that in, or they threw that like they
play Thundercat sometimes,
or Childish Gambino, or anything that's like out of the ordinary, while like maintaining some standards. And I think it's a way for both any kind of age to kind of grab on, especially at the crowd, like a bar where they're the least interested and they're just there to kind of do it. I think hooking them in, and then because I will say there's a lot of success in like the fun house where people really like there to have a good time, and afterwards they all pay, they tip, they ask questions, and they're like, I love the original song like after, and like and I think that's what covers are for. But yeah, covers are mid as fuck.
Preach. Him with a yay, Chris.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good jumping off point to talk about influences.
Yes, sir.
And I've found a lot of times with artists of all mediums that they pull influence from more than just music or more than just the medium that they work in. So I'd love to hear from you guys about some influences.
I know like starting off, like with just the core of the band, we were huge Strokes fans. I think that was the one thing, because we all have very different like musical influences. Like again, I grew up listening to harder music, like metal. Like Paco grew up listening to like the Beatles. Chris kind of like listened to some of the same stuff, but got a little bit like more indie in there.
Got a little bit of it all.
Yeah, got a little bit of it all. So we were all very different, but the Strokes was like one thing where we're like, this band fucks.
It unified us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it was a starting point to aim, at least.
Exactly. So that was like a huge influence for us. And then we kind of all started listening to music together and being like, okay, let's bring this band in. And we're like, oh, that's really good. Like another band is like Hers. Like we all ended up like really enjoying the band Rip. I knew you were gonna say it, Paco. I got you.
I just said yeah. I didn't say
He just said yeah.
I just said yeah, but yes, Rip. They if no one knows, they
I think
are.
everyone knows.
If everyone does, but I'm gonna say it because I want to.
Talk to him,
They're
Paco.
from Liverpool. You know, funny we talk about Liverpool when we mention hers and the Beatles. They were a duo from Liverpool who did a lot of dream pop, indie jazz, and their aesthetic was very. Just it was fun. It was free. It was very dream. It was close to what we were looking to do, like musically afterwards.
I think Simp is like a good example.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That.
And listen to Simp and Don't Marry Me.
On Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you want to listen to it.
That's our latest single. But we essentially pulled a lot of influence from them. But I would say influences from like a local level. At least for me, I would just have to say Service Dog will now felt right. I would gain to say Matt Mulchaney, who was our old producer for a long time and really cultivated
From the Shards.
the
Shout out
Shards.
to Matt and the Shards.
Yeah.
Go to the Shards for all your recording needs.
He's a walking commercial over here, man.
And I think like there was a lot of like influences from other bands that grew up from this, like say like Food Truck's one of them. I would say Tavertine that turned into Nidarian is a big one that I would say.
Yeah, and the cool thing is like because when we started out, the scene was kind of dead. You know, it was like this huge metal scene, and that died really fast. And when we were all kind of coming up, there wasn't really anywhere to play. There was like the Fun House, and that was it. Yeah. And then we started playing with these other bands, you know, like Food Truck, Airspace. There was a Run from the Radio at one point. And I think like just from being around them, kind of like we all fed off of each other. We were all just like, okay, well, they're doing this. They're playing here. Maybe we can talk to them and play there as well. So we all kind of like really stuck together inside of this community, and it just started to spread. And people started having house shows, and new venues started popping up in new places. So like a big influence there was just like building that community, being around each other and just like feeding off each other's ideas, because we had nothing, you know, 7-8 years ago when we all first got like in the band, and now there's so many places to play. And like everyone wants to book live music, everyone wants to have a house show, and it's amazing. It's fantastic to see just that amount of growth of just like the love of music happen just in a short period of time, really.
Yeah.
Right when I joined, when we did the album, like I seriously joined, and then like the next month we were in the studio. So it was interesting for me to try to like play catch up a little bit and like learn what these guys are into. And then also like I was coming from a different background of like more folky singer songwriter. I don't even know exactly what. And then to kind of have this little like, what's the word, like sandbox, like recording studio session. And, you know, I was like practicing with them, and it's cool to see how we all pull from such different places, but how it all comes together.
That's the coolest thing probably about this band, is that like we have such different influences of everything in life. There's a very few things that we actually do kind of like cross over on, but like we're all very different with what we like and what we do. And even just musically, like we've gotten closer over the years, but definitely we all like doing separate things. Like me and Paco like playing video games a lot. Like we're very much so like fighting game people. Yeah. And it's just like that's something that me and Paco have like super in common. So it's just like it's very interesting to have just like everyone likes something different, but we all come together for one thing, and we're like, okay, we all have a vision here.
Yeah. When you guys had recorded your NPR Tiny Desk submission, Lehigh Valley News did a small story on your submission.
Yes.
And you guys mentioned about this idea of enjoying being in the Lehigh Valley because it was much more collaborative with other artists and less competition.
A lot of the bands here, a lot of the artists here are so unique, uniquely themselves, that no one's trying to imitate each other. And there's not competition, which I think sometimes people could get kind of lost in. It's like, oh, I gotta outdo this person. I gotta make a better sound or something.
Yeah.
Where here, it's kind of like we thrive in being ourselves. And so when you collab with other people, it's just kind of like they want to see your vision come to life, you know? I mean, recently we started working with Danny Finocio.
Yeah.
And like he made the art for one of our singles, Right on Red, check it out. But the way that he was so like excited, enthusiastic to work on what we had envisioned, like that seems to be kind of like the trend in the Valley. Like people are just stoked to work with each other because they just enjoy doing this, you know?
And I will say not even just from like a band music perspective, but even from like video. So like when we did like our Fadeaway music video, we had Evan directing. He brought in a great producer, Sophie, and then they, we had a team of people that just wanted to do the project because they were excited about it. So we had like people for lighting and a person taking photos, and and then even just like the local bands. And if you look at their music videos, the people that are participating, and I'm trying to, like, our friend Frank was in like a couple locally. And then, people that came from the Valley, like shout out Chris Kennedy, shout out Chris Harth. Like we're working on video stuff still, even though they're, we're all spread out now a little bit. They're in different states or whatever right now, but, met around Valley life.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of crossover in projects like that, and like a great willingness, and people that are always like, I want to be part of this. I want to join. I want to help. What can I do? Like, I mean, people are just so excited to do stuff like that, and it's really fun to see.
People are rad, dude. People are just sick.
Outside of music, what other major influences or passions do you guys have that has impacted the band at large?
I feel like for me, at least, I'm very visual, so I like doing art stuff and video stuff, and I like that's like I was saying before. That's one of my favorite things to do is like planning like music videos and like making. I feel like when you make music alongside that, you kind of make little worlds. And I imagine these like stories or images when I write, and I think that all kind of ties together. So for me, it's very visual.
Shout out the Creative Couch Show.
Oh boy.
If you guys don't know, Jess has a YouTube channel where she discusses like, being an artist and multimedia artist, but also like brings on guests that, like we'll talk about.
I'm trying. Listen, hold on, guys. Listen, I haven't had anyone on yet, really, because I'm slacking, but.
By the time this is on air, you could have.
Okay, well, we'll see about all that. Cut that. No.
I would say like the other guys too have another side project that they're doing that they're playing on at LVAC on June 15th. It's June 15th, right?
Yeah, but this will probably be way after that.
Well, you missed it. So.
Well, you missed it. By this point, they've played at LVAC's new shout out LVAC.
That for the opening.
Yeah, the
It's a band called Sconce, which I called Biscuit in one of the channels.
Scones.
I thought it was a scone at first. And I was like,
Scone. Let's go scone. But yeah, like I know we've had different influences from like our music video. Like our first music video that we like the first like big production music video was Misdirection, and Paco had this idea to take this influence from like Danger 5 and like really bad spy TV shows and movies in like the 80s and 70s and make that the whole theme. So we even like actually we released it and we showed it off in the theater that we made the Fadeaway music video in.
At the Amaze
They made it theater. Yeah.
Shout out Amaze Theater.
we actually screened the first, if people don't know, Danger 5 is like an Australian parody show of like all those 60s and 70s spy stuff. And we showed it and it was so raunchy that I swear it was like Chris who told me. He was like, dude, we gotta like, we gotta
not show the second episode.
We were like, wait, family's here. I don't think.
We were like, I got like 12-year-old like cousins here, dude. Like,
it is a good show.
Forgot.
It's a great show. And with that, we also got the opportunity to work with Hallian of America.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Hallian.
That's a real shout out.
That's a
for
real
real.
shout out. Like, my goodness, he was such a fun. If people don't know, Hallian is an amazing videographer who's done music videos for like director. He's done music videos for JSOM, Crumb. He was very insightful in how he really achieved the vision. Very fun to work with.
He was wonderful to work with, and he was just talented.
He crashed on our couch.
Yeah.
That's true.
yeah, it was amazing. We literally picked him up, brought him to the apartment. He crashed for 5 days. We made a music video in that much
but
time.
I have to say, our first impression was parking in New York, and I was in my little Subaru, and I was so nervous to parallel park. So, but I could have done it. I have a backup cam, but I was like, you know what, like. someone else do this because I'm nervous. And freaking Chris, I'm looking at you, Chris.
Like, I'll do it.
And yeah, Chris was like, oh, I got it. I'm like, oh, finally, someone who knows what they're doing. And
I
Chris
hate driving, side
backed
note.
up into a fire hydrant and ripped off the back of my bumper. And he walks out while this is happening. And I'm like, we have to drive him back from New York. He's gonna be like I would not want to get in the car.
Listen, to be fair, I drive a small sedan. This is my first time driving that like medium-sized van.
He's just a little guy, Jess.
I should have just done
What
it
do you
myself.
mean?
Yeah, you should. I was teaching you a
why?
life lesson. I was like, you want it done right, do it yourself. I'll crash this thing.
Shout out not trusting Chris driving.
All right.
I am a passenger princess.
Passenger princess. It's my fault for letting him behind the wheel.
Yes.
I love your social media. I love the concert
No, thank you.
posters. I love the music videos. But there's 5 of you. 5 unique, creative individuals with 5 different voices. How do you find cohesion in your brand identity while being 5 people?
It's a lot of John.
It is a lot of John. I would say it's a lot of John, Jess, and
Jingle Hammer
Ryan. I mean,
Not
yes.
as much on the social media anymore. I would say you guys are really taking a lead on that, but for videos and
No,
things,
but I mean, I'm posting. You know, like I put them up, and sometimes I do take the lead on like what is going to be posted. But I think there's still a lot of communication outside of that. Like sometimes I don't know what to do. Like sometimes I'm in such a like rut. And so, like, I'll just hit up the chat. I'm like, guys, I have no idea. And then, like, Chris will send a picture of himself from, like, 2012 looking emo. And then he's like,
Like
"Just
every
post
other
this."
day I'm doing
Yeah,
this.
and then I
he
put it
doesn't
up.
know what I was asking anyway. So.
You know, but it's just sometimes it's there's a lot of communication. And, like, everyone's so creative and goofy and funny. And I think when I started taking over the social media a little bit more, I was like, it just makes sense. You know, like, this is who we are. Let that be the voice, you know, like there's we don't have to think about it too hard, even though I do sometimes, but like I think I just try to keep up with that, where I'm just like, this is who we are and this is how I like it. I think I like these guys, so I think other people will like it too. So
Because a big thing when we like first started like getting more serious in the band was just like, we have to have a thing. Like every band has kind of like their thing, like what is ours? And we had an existential crisis for like a year and a
Why
half.
don't I remember this?
We were like,
Was that
how
when
do
I
we
was in the band?
dress?
Yeah,
Like,
you
like,
were.
what do we-
yeah.
We're like, how do
I
we
do
show
remember.
ourselves and everything like that?
We got to
Yeah.
act as one.
We
can't
were
be
thinking of a
individuals.
name change.
Yeah, we even thought about changing the
Almost-
name. It was
I
that
do
bad.
remember that was like right when I joined too.
Yeah, but then it was just like at one point we all just kind of sat down and just like, we're the theme. Like we're like
it's
just
us,
us
yeah.
as like individuals and just us being goofy and friends.
Yeah.
was kind of just like that. So from there it was kind of just like, all right, just be us. Just have a good time.
I think,
Be
like,
stupid. Be fun.
even like when it comes to like stage stuff, like we played around with like, let's do coordinated outfits, and like we just can't keep up with that.
We're so bad.
I just like
I don't think we need it though.
No,
either, because
that-
we
exactly.
show up. Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to be seen as like us, not as like something manufactured that we
Yeah.
like are trying to pass off as us, you know, and
Yeah.
like that goes back to being like mask off. Like, are we going to be ourselves by
Yeah.
like sticking to this rigid identity that we like portray,
Yeah.
or just by acting as us?
That's what makes it uncomfortable. Is the second you think you have to show up as anything else, and sometimes you get into that mindset because people go out to have a good time. You feel like you have to give them something specific that they're looking for, but honestly, you don't know what they're looking for. So all you can do is show up in whatever way feels good to you, and that's hard to figure out sometimes.
Yeah.
But but like John was saying too, like when we're goofing off on stage and whatever, when we're goofing off with people in the audience, that's when it feels the best.
Yeah, because it's just us. And we love just being us with each other and with the people that are in the crowd, man. And that's what we try to portray. And I think you do a very good job, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
This is why we're having this interview. That's all I want.
Yeah, John actually is like addicted to using ChatGPT for
Actually, I just use AI. I'm sorry. The jig is up.
Well, John is the one that reached out to come on the show.
Yeah.
That's true.
It was ChatGPT, actually.
We have bots to do that.
Met you for the first time
Yeah.
at the networking event
Yeah.
down at the Ice House, which was fun.
Yeah, it's cool. It was a great event.
Yeah.
It was awesome. You guys had candy there.
We did.
There's a candy man.
Oh.
Shout out
Bro, you got
Grandpa
candy?
Joe's.
Yo,
We were sitting there like all tabled up, and then we were like, we need candy. I'm like, you know what?
Where is
Grandpa
that?
Joe's on Main Street,
Yeah,
right
Street.
next to the Penn Street
Never been
Penn
there.
State Creamery. They have fill a box for $5 with candy, and I just went and I found the smallest candy that I could, packed
Yeah.
3 of those
Oh, yeah.
boxes and then shot back down to the ice house.
I got a 5-pound bag of sour gummy worms at Grandpa Joe's. I think it was like
Amazing.
$12.
You would.
It lasted me like 2 weeks.
Your teeth are gonna rot, bro.
I already have.
Let's hear them teeth.
Dentist told me to get off the worms.
Oh man. Well, moving from the stage to the studio, what does recording new music look like for you guys?
Oh, recording, in my opinion, is one of the best parts of it.
Hard
Because
agree.
I could just be there for 12 hours, just like, and not even play the whole time and be like, yeah, I just did that. Like, that feels good. I mean, at least for the stuff that we just recorded. You know, we sat on these songs for a long time. We played them live a lot. There was a lot of fine tuning and transformation that the songs went through before we brought them to the studio. And then, you know, for this last studio effort, we had to be a lot more, I guess, coordinated. I feel like in the past it was a lot more of like a creative, open.
Just
We
let
don't
it
know what's
happen.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
But this one was a lot more like, you know, we're going to Philly. We're doing the big shot thing and doing the studio and
Shout out Kyle Pulley from Headroom
There's
Studio.
studio.
fantastic. Yeah, and definitely he had a different approach than what we were used to. So I mean, anyone else want to expand on? I'm losing it.
Well, I was thinking, I was actually thinking, we had 2 producers that we worked, 3 actually. One was Justin from
Justin Mitchell.
Yeah, Justin Mitchell from King Studios, which was on our first EP, Porch Light. That one was done by him, and then the people we knew and a lot of the singles that came out before like 2023. Was Matt Mulchaney, who worked on the people we knew, and this next coming album, should I name drop it?
Yeah.
So our next album, that's going to be released in sometime in September, is We'll Figure It Out. Is the name of the album. We worked with Kyle Pulley, as John mentioned, at Headroom Studios, and I think the 3 approaches really, I think, honed us in on what requires adding into a song. Like what is a good song to bring and what are things to take out of a song. And I think we had to go to each producer to figure out which one was which. Like I think with Justin, we were very new. So we were like, oh, let's just like throw the best stuff we have. And he made a lot of like, he's like, maybe we should do this one or maybe like clear cut. Like that's what, and for Matt Mulchaney at the Shards, it opened us to possibilities of what we could do in the studio. We did crazy stuff like use sandpaper or
Did we use little poppers?
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of experimenting with
Yeah.
like different sounds and ideas and layering.
Yeah.
And
We always considered it kind of like a musical playground. Like we could always just add more with Matt, which was so nice. Just create like an interesting vibe out of sending stuff through like loops and whatnot. It's always something different for every song.
Yeah.
And then I think for Kyle, it was he really synthesized down to us like what are great things to add and then what are things to take out. It was
It's like stripping back what's the
Yeah.
core
Yeah.
foundation, what
Yeah.
is the important parts of a song.
And I think with a lot of these songs, it's like the synthesis of all these ideas to where I think that they are probably the best stuff we've put out,
I think so.
or going to put out. And I think I'm very proud of each and every one of those songs.
Yeah.
I say that very nicely.
Oh, that's awesome.
Shout out to music.
Mac. Can I vote to kick Mac off the island? We talked about this, and I think I want to actually kick Mac off.
Yeah, we were gonna kick Chris up, but I think it's
Yeah.
time for Mac to go.
Another
Wait, Chris, do the announcer voice.
Mac is gone.
All right, that's pretty.
Can I just also say that, like, with the studio, I know all my drummers will feel this. Why has it got to take 6 hours to get the drums ready? It's like that everywhere, and it makes sense because you got to, like, mic everything up. You got to set it up.
Yeah.
You got to try the different cymbals, the different snares for every song. But it's like, you get there, you set everything up for 4 or 5 hours, and then you get to start recording.
Would you rather play on an electronic drum set?
No. Yeah, so I mean, it's like with the good with the bad. It's
Actually,
still a
let's
great
kick
time.
Chris out now.
Tell my
Revote
bass
starts
players
now.
the struggle of listening to your drummer complain about how long it takes to get set up.
It's okay, I'm just sitting there like,
To be fair, Chris was put through the ringer, I think, out of everyone,
Yeah.
where he was with Kyle, and Kyle was very specific about the drum sounds he wanted. To be fair,
In a wonderful way.
in a wonderful way.
Fantastic
But
way.
Chris was put to the test where he's like, all right, now do this a little bit faster. all right, no, slow it down. Okay, let's switch off the head.
Can you make this one hit a little bit late? Wasn't that one of the things?
Yeah. Well, one of the coolest things that like I loved, but like was of course like in the moment intimidating was he asked me to play half as much essentially. So like I'm doing like a standard beat or whatever, and he's like, just hit on the ands. So then I'm like sitting there like, okay, let me like transcribe this out. Like I get like my sheet music out and like write it down. And then like I'm like, okay, yeah, I could totally do this. But like it's just scary in the moment because it's like I wasn't ready. Like I'm ready to record these songs. But then we gotta like strip them in really interesting ways. It was challenging, but I feel like we learned a lot from that.
For sure.
So you had talked about transcribing music there.
Yes.
What does music education or art education look like for you guys? What does that mean to you? Are you traditionally trained? Are you self-taught?
Oh, this is so interesting.
YouTube taught?
Because we're all
excited
so
for this
different.
one,
We're
yeah.
all so different. I'm gonna let Paco and Jess start this off, but like we're entirely different here.
Essentially, I would say for performing like instrument, I was very self-taught. I was self-taught in playing guitar, and to an extent singing. But I did have in high school, shout out to Easton Area High School. I was in choir. My teacher, two of my teachers, Mr. Pete Deschler and Mr. John Shalanskis, I did a lot of classes with them involving, music theory, and a lot of like, even after classes, I would show them songs I would write because I was like just so interested in like writing like songs at the time and developing that skill. And eventually it just turned into like formal education where I knew like, oh, I could tell you like I could read music on like I'd be like, oh yeah, that's that key, it's this, that's the chord they're gonna be playing, or that's the tempo. That's like I think I would say me and Jess are the only me, Jess, and like to an extent Chris, like are the only musically trained formally in any sort of way. So we're the ones who can read the music and and I think it really helps to have that, structure of being able to do that because you're able to play in areas that normally operate on that language. But at the same time, I would say that self-teaching yourself, watching videos, even like just listening to music itself, I think really garners a lot of cool ways for people to figure out cool voicings, cool ways to play like different songs, different skills, different specializations. I think a combination of both is needed in order to really synthesize like the best kind of outcome for any musician.
Am I starting this thing from the beginning, way back when? Okay, well, I guess when I was like 3 years old, I had this little like 101 Dalmatians piano, and I used to like come home from church or just being outside in the world and like play the music back because like I could hear it and play it. So my mom kind of like always kept instruments around for me or whatever, specifically like piano because that's what I started on. And then when I was in like 4th grade, I was in this musical, and I would sit down with the music director, piano guy, every single day, and he was like, does this kid want lessons? Because like she won't stop sitting with me every day to talk about piano. And that was Charlie Cole. He's a really wonderful person. And so I did lessons for a while. I don't remember exactly how long, but that was like the key thing to get my hands independent. I think that's one of the biggest things I got out of that initial like little bit of training that I got. And then I was in some bands from when I was like 13 to high school, and I actually went to the arts high school where I thought I was going for songwriting, but I ended up doing straight up piano recitals. And that was like really intimidating because I knew how to read music, but I went from playing 0 recitals to playing like 2 a year for 4 years. And then like I was learning, like memorizing these 14-page recital pieces, and it was really intimidating, but I think I learned a lot from it and a lot about theory and just kept going on that track kind of. And I was learning about accompaniment, and I was honestly, I got over my stage fright through that school because I was performing like every week, if not every other week, sometimes multiple times a week. So yeah, I just learned from a lot of different places and mentors, and some of like the songwriting was mostly self-taught. I recorded with a really wonderful person who's no longer with us, but Michael Herron. I recorded with him when I was like 10. He was really awesome. And just, yeah, bands that I was with, learning about band dynamics and songwriting. And, my friend Victoria, played with her in a band for a while. My friends in Clubber Lang Gang, old band, and we had a band called Rise at one point, and I really just, it's invaluable what those people taught me, those mentors, the training that I got in school, and I'm very grateful for that. So I learned from a lot of different sources, but learned a lot of different things. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to sum it up, but that's
I get that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got.
Popcorn Chris.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I was like young, I feel like I grew up in like a semi-musical household. My mom like sang in the choir for the church. She was learning how to play piano, keyboard and stuff. And so like, as like a 6-year-old, I started to kind of learn that a little bit. Didn't really get my interest up too much though. I was always tapping on stuff, just getting like pots and pans and slapping them together. And like, you know, that's a great place to start for anyone, you know. But then I joined the school band, and my parents were like, if you can be in the school band for a year, we'll get you a drum set. It's a lie. Just for a year, though. Then after 2 years, they finally got me a drum set. So then I was like, well, I can't play that. I don't know how to do that. I've been like learning how to just like hit a snare drum or whatever. So I forced them to get me lessons before I would even like touch it. But they got me some lessons. I went to like Twin Rivers, and then I went to Dave Phillips. And I eventually went to School of Rock and the Lesson Center, and the lessons were fantastic. Especially with drums, I feel like it's very dependent on who you have, because there's a lot of different ways it can be taught. Not everyone teaches like reading and stuff and whatnot, but my first couple teachers were more like jazzy and whatnot. So I learned how to read sheet music, just worked through like some books and stuff, and like all very basic. When I got to School of Rock, though, is when we started learning like songs. And I feel like just learning songs was really helpful. Continuing to remember how to read sheet music was also really important, because then I could like look stuff up or teach myself things online. And at a certain point when I was probably like 15 or 16, I decided that lessons were enough for me, and I just wanted to do bands. So I was just in like a couple high school bands and whatnot. And I think playing with people teaches you a lot. Lessons can teach you a lot. There's a lot you can do on your own. There's really a million different ways you can do it. But a strong foundation of like knowing how to read and then going on to teach yourself, I think is like fantastic. Especially nowadays, there's so many resources online with like Drumeo and like other YouTubers and stuff, and just getting online lessons even. And now after, you know, I haven't been in a lesson in like 9 or 10 years. I just took my first drum lesson in a very long time.
Yay!
Woo! And yeah, and it's great. You know, like I said, being able to read, just like getting this far going into that lesson, I feel like I gained so much, just because they were like, here are the resources that like you can just use yourself, and like here's some things to like just do. But another thing is also not just playing with musicians, but playing with other people that play your instrument. Because when you're in a band, you don't really have other drummers. So finding other drummers that you can kind of like workshop with, or like they can show you something. Because there's so many times where I'm like just learning a song and I'm like, oh, they did it this way, and I wouldn't have thought about it like that. And there's a lot you can get from learning songs like that, but there's also a lot you can get from just watching another person play the same instrument. That is fantastic. Popcorn Mac.
Oh, it's me. Hi, thank you. So with music education, I started playing guitar when I was about 9 years old. My grandfather was a musician from when he was about 10. He played all over, played in an oldies band, he played in Carnegie Hall in Las Vegas. And as soon as I was like, oh, that would be kind of cool, he threw my ass in lessons so fast. Like I said, I want to play guitar. He gave me a old beat up Ibanez and threw me in lessons the week after. And I just started learning from this man called Skip Azalina. And I never really learned. He taught me some theory, but mainly he wanted me to learn the enjoyment and the love for the music that I liked. So he was like, hey, bring me songs in like an MP3 player, and I'll play it and I'll listen to it and we'll learn it together. And he wrote out tablature for it instead of doing like actual sheet music. And he'd be like, okay, well, let's learn this song together and I'll show you why it works. And started trying to like bridge the gap of like technical knowledge and the love of music that I had before, and kind of like strengthen that. So I did that for maybe like 6 or 7 years. But when I was in high school, I just wanted to be a vocalist of a metal band. So I kind of like pushed guitar away. I just wanted to scream. I did that. And from that moment on, it was all self-taught. It was very much so like after that, I joined the Army for a little bit. That didn't work out. I came back like 6 months later, and Paco and Chris asked me if I wanted to play. And I never played bass. I just assumed just like, hey, it's guitar with 2 less strings. And like, I can do that. I play guitar. I wrote stuff for a heavy band. Who cares, man? And I learned everything from the ground up about bass. So it was like really switching from only working with melody to falling back into a rhythm section is definitely a whole switch of mindset. And I learned a lot just from being in the band of just like, okay, well, my mind isn't like this. I don't write sheet music like Chris does. You know, I don't have that same kind of like choir knowledge of just like melodies that Paco does, you know? And so I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going to pick their brains and I'm going to see what I can get from that and then take that and kind of like incorporate my own learning from there. And, you know, just from being around them and being like, I just want to make music. Like I just started putting hours into bass. Like at first I started playing with a pick. COVID happened. We couldn't do anything. I sat in my room for like 4 hours at a time, just playing with my fingers until it was actually like legible because at first I was dog water. And and even to now, it's just like you never stop. Like music education is so interesting because me and Chris talk about this sometimes where it's just like music is always something that you're never going to fully master. And there's always going to be a different way to play something and a different way to do something and a different genre that you've never thought of before. So, you know, you're never going to stop. And if you do, you stagnate. I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. But if you always want to learn something in music, it's there to be found. And especially with the internet now, man, you can find anything. Yeah. You can like listen to any kind of music, learn that music, learn what it was about, learn the people that wrote it, know their favorite type of ice cream cake. Like you can figure out anything on the internet and learn that nowadays. And it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't really need a teacher. You just need patience.
Yeah. And the will to learn, you know, just like the main thing that I also learned with music is just like, you are not going to be good at right away. It's like, it's very humbling. It's just like jumping into something that's entirely foreign to your body. You know, you don't just wake up when you're like 3 years old and you have a guitar and you start shredding. You know, everything about music like is so innate with rhythm, but so foreign in execution that you have to kind of like take this like mindset of just like, well, I'm going to suck for a while until I can get there and slowly build yourself up. And it can go into so many different avenues of life where it's just like, just for music, especially like in jobs, like if you change a job and you're going into something new, it's just like to have that mindset of just like, well, I'm going to suck at this until I don't. It definitely takes a lot of pressure off in just real life, man.
Very well said, Matt. Very well said.
Thank you.
I think I'm in the same boat a bit with Mac, where I think I learned a lot just being in the band. I think out of everyone, I've had the least like formal education with music. I mean, when I was a kid, like elementary school, I was in school band for like a year. I did a couple piano lessons. And then when I picked up guitar, I did lessons for a couple months. And then like college, I did like fundamental stuff, like music, but none of that stuck. Like I just like the concept of like theory, it was too much. It just doesn't stick in my head for some reason. I've been playing guitar since I was 14, but at the time I had stopped because I plateaued. I was just kind of like, I don't know where else to go with this thing. So I switched over to drums, which I was always really interested in. And like I was in like a couple bands that never really went anywhere playing drums with them. And then when they hit me up, I think Chris hit me up and he was like, hey, we're looking for a lead guitarist. I was like, I play drums. He's like, no, I do. He's like, I play drums.
I was like, well, that's taken. So we got to figure something out, guys.
Yeah. So when I joined the band, I wasn't very comfortable playing lead because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this thing. Like, what does that even mean? So it just took a lot of like hearing like everyone talk about theory and like I was like, I have to pick this up. Like I have to like understand what the hell they're talking about or else I'm going to be left behind, you know, or like I'm going to be constantly frustrated when I don't know certain things that they're talking about. And it gave me like a drive to just want to learn more too, you know, because I knew I could get better and I wanted to get better. Meeting a ton of different artists too who are a lot better than me, you know, in my perception, right? Like just talking to them, seeing how they learn, how they think, and then like understanding too that I am not unique in the way that I look at guitar sometimes where like I see people shredding and then they're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I'm like, that's sick because I don't know what I'm doing either. So like pretty much what they've been saying. It's just like you have to having this like excitement to learn to. It's endless. You can always progress. You can always get better, and there's so many resources. And like the great thing about the Valley is that people are willing to help you get there too, and share their own knowledge to help you get better and feel better about what you're doing.
What has experimentation looked like for you guys as a band?
Working with Matt, that was like a huge lesson in experimentation of like doing these grand things, like these really off-kiltered stuff. But then like working with Kyle, we had to be like, well, what does the other way look like? How does it look like, doing less, making that more, and I think we're constantly just trying to push ourselves and not just do the same thing, just kind of see where we can go with what we're doing.
A big thing with the band is just like looking at other people's perspectives, where I think that like going through all of the different producers, everyone had a different perspective on music and creation. And even just like the five of us all have different perceptions of music.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I think that experimentation is literally just like taking someone else's like view of music and what they want with a song, putting yourself and empathizing with them and seeing what you guys can actually bridge together and make something.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like what Mag was saying earlier, like how different all of our music taste is, and just like the way that we were able to kind of like come together and form what is We're From Antarctica, like that in itself is a constant, like us experimenting, because we all like, we still to this day do not agree on all like music, it's like I'm trying to take from what the bands and artists that I like and seeing how I can kind of morph that into what I do in the band. And I'm sure like everyone does a form of that themselves. So it's a constant like progression, a constant experimentation.
Yeah. And I think a big form of experimentation within writing, just like even like within ourselves in the group, can be like everyone having ideas, like everyone just chiming in and coming up with something, whether it sticks or not, doesn't really matter. But like, I feel like oftentimes drummers don't really get to like help write songs, but like sometimes I chime in and I'm like, what if we do this thing here? And sometimes we have to translate it because we're like, like that doesn't make sense to me. But then like, we talk about it, and like everyone has had great ideas to make songs different,
You mentioned before that you're married, correct?
Yes.
What is it like balancing your relationship with your wife and your relationship with the band?
Me and my wife, we're like high school sweethearts. We've been together. We're actually celebrating our 11-year anniversary this June.
everyone give this man.
Yay! Shout out to Kim.
She's cool or whatever.
But I get that. A lot of the times I feel like people are worried about being in a band and then also having a family, because musicians are very much like, you need to basically be going nowhere, so that way you can like quit everything and then like get on the road. But she's been so supportive through everything, because we actually met in School of Rock. She was a guitarist. She was in We're From Antarctica actually in its early renditions. So she understands it, and like I appreciate that tremendously. And I don't think it's been that hard. Sometimes it's difficult when we have 3 gigs, and then like at our peak we were practicing 3 nights a week, and then also playing 2 or 3 gigs. So like it's sometimes 35 hours a week of music, plus 40 hours of a full-time job. So like it can be stressful and whatnot, but like the big thing is understanding each other, and then also compromising. Sometimes like maybe I leave a little early and then we go and do something, or making like date nights very special and whatnot. And like, I think overall, like I really appreciate it,
That's awesome.
It's so cool to hear you talk about that, because we just see you like all the time, but it's cool to, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, we don't see the ins and outs of how you work that out.
Yeah.
Funny enough, before we came in here, me and Chris were having this exact conversation outside.
Literally just talking about
like
this.
almost exactly what he just said is what he said in the car when we were just shooting the shit.
I had this prepped, Kim. Sorry.
He had the
He's
script
reading
ready.
off a card.
Well, on the topic of relationships, I mean, 5 individuals making one unique identity as a band. What does your interpersonal relationships kind of look like, and how does that impact meshing well in a live setting, in a studio setting, needing to come together and unify as one?
I think that kind of ebb and flows greatly because I feel like there's at least for me, there's certain periods where I was like closer to some people or closer. It's like almost like having siblings where like as you grow up, you learn more about this person or you spend more time with that person. And I think it's like, it's cool because either way with us and just the way we are as people, you always have someone in the band to kind of be like, yo, I'm like, you feeling this way or like, so that for me, at least, I feel like that's always something that's changing. And then as you learn like different interests that other people have or whatever and things that you can do together. And I mean, for me, it's almost like having more siblings. In a way.
Yeah. It is just a big family, you know? And so like I think we all appreciate each other for different reasons and whatnot. But I think like a great thing was that the foundation of the band, starting off being me and Paco being, like best friends. Mm-hmm. He lived with me at the time. We could just go down and just jam whenever we wanted to. And then adding Mac, who was another incredibly close friend. We've all only gotten closer since then. I think like the trio of us starting off was amazing because we could always just have good times, and like we just want to hang out and then also do this like thing that we love, being music. And then as we brought in John and Jess, like there was this little bit of anxiety where it's like opening your family up to almost a stranger that we like met. And then like they became part of the band before we really knew them, Yeah. And then we just continued to grow closer.
Yeah. Especially like when I first joined, like before you joined, Jess, like I was like, these guys are all so close. Yeah. They all like have their friends and stuff. I'm like, I don't know. Like I felt uncomfortable a lot of the time just because I felt like the new kid, Like I'm like, how am I gonna mesh in with these groups of kids? Like I don't know. And then when Jess joined, I was like, "Oh, cool! It's somebody else." That's like
I didn't realize how new you were when I started because the other guys had like so many inside jokes and stories and people they talk about, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on right now. But But it's crazy. Like over the years now, like I'm like, this is the like core friend group now. Yeah. Like I feel like. Like I no longer feel like I'm left outside of like any jokes or like whatever. It's just like we know each other so well. Yeah. Like we've been together as a band, like 6 years now. I feel like it's like we just know the ins and outs of like, oh yeah, this person's gonna do that, or like this person, they're gonna, whatever. Like it's like at this point, but it's like almost a nice thing that it's like I know this person. And it's cool to be around.
And like something that like gets talked to us sometimes is, especially when we're playing live, is people will come up to us and be like, we can tell how close. They're like, oh, we can see how close the band is just from like watching. And like John is entirely right. It's just like we have all just become just close friends and like we've grown this family out. And I just love you guys.
You guys I love everyone but Mac.
Shout out not Chris.
Voting Chris off the island.
Well, as we start to wind things down, I wanna hear some of your favorite memories of recording, playing together, just being a band.
Oh man!
I think we have to tell the story.
Which one?
The do we tell it? The parking meter one. This is definitely one of our more interesting memories.
I will never fucking forgive you.
Is hypothetical.
This didn't happen.
This actually happened.
Allegedly, right? So we played at a place that is no longer around anymore, and that's down in like we're connected to. It's called the. So we got this show and we're playing with like 4 or 5 other acts and we're smack dab in the middle of this whole bill. So the first 2 bands come and they play and they're okay. Like I don't really remember them too much, but they were very, very sweet. They were very, very nice. And we get up there, we get all of our gear, we're playing, and maybe like the second or third song to the end of our set, everyone's
leaves. Gone. Like dead ass. Like we look around and be like, do we suck?
Yeah,
like
what? We were all just looking at each other like, what the hell? So we finished our set. We had our friend Felix with us, and we asked him like, what is going on? He was like, yo, you just gotta go outside. So we leave, we go outside. Some dude in a PT Cruiser smacked into a guy, like some dude's like F-150 outside, pushed the F-150 onto the curb, broke a parking meter, and he's out there trying to rev his car to leave. And we're just like, what is
Everyone's
going
standing
on?
out there.
What is happening? And like at this point, like we all like had sedans, so we would bring all of our friends out. And one person that was in one of those cars, allegedly, walked up to this broken parking meter, grabbed just the thing that had the money and walked away. Yeah, like the head of the parking meter. And he walks over to Paco's car and tries to put it in there. And Paco's like, I don't want that thing in there. I don't want it anywhere near here. And he's like, fine. And me and Chris look at each other. We were like, all right, throw it in here.
No. Listen. Allegedly what happened.
Okay, allegedly.
See, the trunk was unlocked, and I walked away. You put it in when I wasn't looking.
Yeah, exactly. So at that point, hypothetically, it ended up in Chris's car, and it was me, him, his wife Kim, and our friend Hunter. And we start driving away. And mind you, this is a old parking meter, probably from the fucking 70s.
But the thing is, like, everyone's allegedly. Everyone's freaking out though, because we're like, man, does that thing get tracked? Is the government gonna find us? Is this? Everyone's freaking the crap
out. We're driving away now. We're maybe like 10 or 15 minutes out, and we get a call from Paco and Frank, and they're calling us saying, dude, you gotta throw the parking meter away. They track those things, man. It's like, you're gonna get in so much trouble. And we're like, bro, no, we're fine. And then Kim doesn't know at this point that we have the parking meter.
Okay. But to be honest, we're that kind of like, I was like, my line of thinking was, we're going to this venue. We want to come back again and play.
Yeah, you don't want your name attached.
And like, yeah, it couldn't be tracked, but they also had cameras like in the parking lot. So someone like putting my that shit in my car, I was like
allegedly.
But
allegedly, it never ended up in your car. Allegedly, we were already half an hour outside of the city.
Here's another wrinkle to the story, though. I think at the time, my girlfriend at the time got like completely drunk, like blackout drunk, and ran away.
So while we're getting this freaking meter,
I'm chasing her, trying to find her in Philly somewhere. And then once I find her, I walk back and like, allegedly, these guys are like, can you please call Mac and Chris? Like, you gotta tell them to dump this thing. And I'm like, I just had to run around Philly trying to find like, and then I call them. I'm like, they're freaking out. Toss it. Like, I just can't. I was over it. But yeah, what a time.
Yeah, so perhaps we had to pull over at that point, and we had to hawk it into some hedges that we found in some suburb outside of Philly.
Where it may still be.
It might still be. Yeah, so that would be a really cool story if any of that was real.
Yeah, so that's probably like the top band memory.
I will never forget.
Yeah, that's like one that we all get heated about. So.
Allegedly wanted that thing so fucking bad, dude.
They were allegedly gonna crack it open, and I was gonna get all the pennies inside.
Yeah, I didn't want the money. That bass player in that band didn't want the money. He just wanted the parking meter.
Yeah, but imagine like spray painting it like pink or something and like having it in your house, putting disco tiles on it. Like, hello?
I will never forgive. Frank, if you're listening to this, never forgiven. Never forgotten.
Frank, you're out of the band.
Vote to kick Frank off the island.
Aye.
I love Frank.
Yeah, we stand Frank.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's always a fun time when we're out, man.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, what's coming up next for you guys? What's on the docket?
So our album's coming up.
Yes, sir.
By the time this is released, our album should be coming around the corner, and I think.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
What's the album called?
Oh, it's called "We'll Figure It Out."
Yep.
Yeah, we're super excited for this. We've been working so hard for it. You know, hopefully people are jamming the singles and are just as excited. And then I think by that time, we'll probably start ramping up with some gigs. And
we got some video projects slated, some in the works, some in pre-production, some just sitting with storyboards. Some really exciting projects, collaborating, like I was mentioning, with like other bands and other film people that we knew from the Valley. So keep an eye out for that. That probably won't be until a little bit more down the road, but that's another thing that's coming out there.
Yeah, and all those things you can find on all of our socials, Instagram, Facebook, you can find it all there. We post about it all the time. And if you want to keep up to date with any of that, hit us up there.
Yeah. And what is the social media for the band?
We're from Antarctica on Instagram. I think we're the only one with that name.
Don't spell it wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, make sure you add the C, Antarctica.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a message to venues, too.
Yeah.
No shade, but Antarctica.
Yeah.
People out here being like, we're from Antarctica.
Northeast accents. I hate them.
And then where can people find each of you individually online?
You can find me at Johnny DeVito. I don't remember if I have an underscore, but just look up Johnny DeVito, John Blanco.
We'll make sure that it's in the comments.
Yeah, at the Turtle House for me.
Got at Organic Coconut or Christopher Kendall.
jr.jrae on Instagram, or probably a better place is YouTube for Creative Couch, because I don't really go on Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't really use social media, but you can find me on Time Spit Poet on Instagram, or you can find me on stream kicking ass.
Taking names.
Catch him at your next Tekken tournament.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for coming into this.
Thanks for letting us come in
Thank
earlier,
you.
dude.
It's been
Thank
a
you
time.
for coming out.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. We from Antarctica wanted me to let you know that their new album, We'll Figure It Out, is officially dropping on September 27th. A couple upcoming dates for shows are going to be on September 21st at the West End Food Festival in Allentown, and on the 27th, they'll be playing in Newark, Delaware at Free Parking. And then lastly, on October 4th, they'll have an album release show with My Cousin's Girlfriend's House and Just at National Sokol in Bethlehem. For more information about any of these upcoming shows, the album, or just to keep up with the band in general, make sure you check them out on Instagram at We're From Antarctica. Have a great week. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Lehigh Valley Arts Podcast. Don't forget to like the podcast, leave us a review, and follow us on both social media and streaming services at Lehigh Valley Arts Podcast.